Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie and I'm going to guide you through my entire ADHD journey so far, starting from diagnosis to medication and all that's in between. If you want to know more about my personal experience from getting diagnosed to getting my medication today, then stay tuned because I'm going to go fully in depth on everything. Whether or not you've just been newly diagnosed or even if you're just looking for somebody else with similar experiences to your own, I guarantee I've probably had them. So without further ado, let's get into the diagnosis phase. I can do a much more in-depth conversation on this at a later date, and if you want to see that, please comment down below. But basically my diagnosis came about years ago when a friend had mentioned it to me on the off that she thought I might have ADHD, and I was like, no, absolutely not, that's not me. And that was still when it was very stigmatized towards like, oh yeah, it's boys that are really hyperactive and they chat back at people and they don't deal well with authority. And I was just like, that's not me in the slightest. The person who said this to me, like, that must have stuck with me, because a couple of years later I got offered a free therapist at the place I worked. And so when we were going through the therapy together, I think I mentioned it to her. She's like, I'm not a licensed professional, but I think you should do some research online, and if it resonates with you, just give your GP a message and they'll put you forward to an actual ADHD specialist, and you can go through the official diagnosis that way and find out if you have got it or if you haven't. So that's how this all came about, basically. And then I took myself home that night and was like, still don't think it. But then I went on the r/ADHD subreddit, and my God, everything clicked. Suddenly all these little things I thought were quirks about myself, of like, I don't know, listening to a song a million times in a row, or hyperfixating on something, deciding one day that I want to make a million wax melts and start my own wax melt company, to then the next day I'm suddenly obsessed with, I don't know, building pillow forts and I'm going to become the pillow fort queen of the world, and then the next day I'm obsessed with something else. I always thought that was just me. No, it turns out loads of people had that too. Things like time blindness, like I didn't know that was a thing for everybody else. I just thought I was late to everything. I didn't even know time blindness was a thing. I just thought like, oh, I don't know how I'm always late. I try so hard to get there on time, but like, oh, I just ended up being late again. I would forget all my keys all the time and then get really, really overwhelmed about it and like agitated about it, to the point where my whole day was ruined if I couldn't find my keys. And like subconsciously I would be really angry and aggressive towards, like, not angry and I'm not an aggressive person, but like just being a little bit too snappy in certain situations, or maybe taking out my frustration on other people when really they didn't do anything and I'm not even angry at them, but losing keys or doing something like being late would just put me in that bad mindset where I just couldn't get myself out of it. And there's many, 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 many more symptoms that I personally struggle with that we later found out in my diagnosis was part of my ADHD. I went on like a bit of a mental awakening where I was like, oh, no, maybe I have got ADHD. I then just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go through to a specialist and speak to them. They obviously know what they're talking about. If they deem me to have it, cool. If they don't, cool. Like, but I hope to God they do think I do, because maybe all these flaws that I've hated about myself for years, I can actually be like, Kate, it's not your fault. Like, stop being so hard on yourself. But long story short, my first doctor actually diagnosed me with ADD. If you don't know what that is, it's ADHD, but without the hyperactivity. So you're very inattentive, you're likely to be extremely impulsive, which I am. You are a lot more quieter and reserved, but in here it's like so much going on in your head. And like the paralysis as well was a big thing for me. Like I would always be called lazy because I can get out of bed. My mom would be like, get out of bed, like it's easy, just get out. And I'd be like, no mom, you don't understand, it feels like bricks are on me. Like I can't get out of bed, can't explain it to you, I just can't do it. Like, but I want to, and I'm shouting at myself in my head and I want to. And turns out that like in a nutshell, it kind of encompasses all bases, but ADD was what he diagnosed me with. So I went on medication called Zagotin, and I started off with Zagotin and it changed my life. Like I'd never known that I could be somebody that could get up in the morning and just get up. I could breathe and could focus and could decipher what I wanted to do that day and be like, oh yeah, I need to sort this and do this and do this. I would find myself in the kitchen actually loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher, putting my clothes on the wash and then hanging them up on the washing line at a normal time, and not just doing it like, oh crap, left it out. I also, in those few weeks, didn't have to re-put the washing machine back on because I'd forgotten to put everything out, or I was too lazy paralysis to actually get anything out. So yeah, that was a really, really eye-opening experience with the Zagatin. However, it was short-lived, folks. So the Zagatin didn't work well with my body. And one thing I will say to all of you, for any medication that you ever take, like, number one, you know your own body better than anybody else. And I knew that something wasn't right with the Zagatin because I'd started to get like what felt like bugs crawling up my skin. Oh, even now I can still remember, it was horrible. But it felt like bugs crawling up my skin. Huge disclaimer here, when you get any type of medication, it's so easy to throw away like the leaflet that you get with it that tells you all the side effects and stuff like that. Don't throw it out, because even if you skim read it, I mean, nowadays it would all be online anyway, but still just keep it, because you might not get the side effects at first, but after a couple of months, if you don't feel like yourself, cross-reference what you're feeling with the side effects. My head was really itchy, and I found myself like slapping away this like, it wasn't even there. It was like I was hallucinating these bugs. I had to be where instead of having a really, really productive day, I would actually have to fall asleep at about 4 o'clock because the tension headache that I had was so bad with my jaw that it caused me to have like a migraine every day. Every single day I had a tension headache. This happened all within a space of like 1 to 3 months. So I think by the end of 3 months is when I kind of cut it off. And I saw that all of these symptoms, like the bug scratching and like what else is it? It was like a tick, and then the headaches and the heart palpitations that I was having ended up being on the like very rare section, which also included things like death, like sudden death and pulmonary heart disease. And I was just like, absolutely not. Like, as soon as I read that, I was like, this isn't normal. This isn't even a common side effect. This is a bad side effect, and I'm not doing it anymore. So I rang up my doctor and I was like, yo, ADHD doc, please could you put me on something else? And he was like, no. Now remember, this was like 2018, so there was no other option, and like the only other option was this doctor that I went through. So I went through the NHS, I did it through my GP. I did not pay any money. However, I did have to wait, I think it was 3 months I had to wait, which back then was considered like a really long waiting time. And now it's completely changed, and obviously COVID, and again, ADHD talk has definitely something to do with that, but also the lack of understanding and awareness and support that the UK has for ADHD, and like the fact that it is just portrayed as this stupid thing where people are like, I say silly things and then I do something. No, it's debilitating. So anyway, my doctor was like, here, just take some anxiety beta blockers, like that'll fix things. And I was just like, dude, no, like these aren't normal symptoms. I don't feel comfortable just slapping on an anxiety medication on top of it, like not when there's something underlying that is literally in the rare section. So anyway, I decided that I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to just patch something on top of something that was really bad for my body. And I just said, as great as the meds were when they worked, they're not working anymore. They're a detriment to my life, and I'm gonna stop taking them, which sucked, because imagine finally having like a normal life and then like knowing now, like now understanding that that is capable and I can do that, and then going from that back to being not medicated, and now being amazingly aware of how much more I'm underachieving and not being able to do just basic things. So it was a tough time. I think I stayed unmedicated. It was just before I went to New York, which was just before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and then it got to January 2022, like this year, and I called up my GP and I was just like, look, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling, and I would like to go back to my old specialist again, or I would like to go back on the Zagaton, anything at this point. Like, I'm really struggling. I could really do with that help. And I was informed that my former ADHD specialist had like ran away and not messaged any of his clients and not said anything about it whatsoever, just disappeared, and that the waiting list would be a year. A whole year. They gave me January 2023 as a referral date, and I'd also been put through on an urgent referral because I was really struggling. I found that ridiculous. I was like, what, I need to be referred again? Like, you already know I have ADHD. Why am I being referred to do a diagnosis again? But because apparently it was a brand new like system, it was important for them that I go through a different way, and that we just, you know, I speak to their specialist and do it that way rather than just take my notes from the last one. And I since got matched with a wonderful woman who sat down on a Zoom call with me for like an hour and a half. It was fantastic, and she was so understanding. She like got it. She just knew about how ADHD works, and then when we went through everything, she was like, yeah, like without a shadow of doubt, I can tell you, you have ADHD. And I was just like, nice, knew it. But this time I had ADHD, so I'm technically ADD, ADHD. I'm a bit of both, who knows? That was pretty much it. That's pretty much where we're at now. So she put me on a new type of medication called elvanse. Apparently there's another type of it called vivance and stuff like that, but I was on elvanse. I say was, I'm still on elvanse. I started off on 30 milligrams. You're meant to have 2 weeks of 30 milligrams, and then if you need to up your dose, they then put you to like 50. But because I had told my specialist that I pretty much had like 3-4 energy drinks plus coffees a day, she was like, oh wow, you're self-medicating. Yeah, we'll just give you a week then of the 30 milligram, because I honestly think it'll wear out and you'll probably need to go straight to 50 pretty much after the first week. And my God, she was right. So the first day I was high. I was like, oh my God, everything's racing. I need to get some energy out. I've got energy everywhere. Like, this is the craziest thing. It was wild. That was a crazy day. I got so much done. I was having to like work from home, like with my laptop, but like dance and have a dance party and a rave just to shake off the energy. After that, it kind of mellowed after 2 days, and then I went straight onto my 50 milligram. 50 milligram was great, did really, really good up until about a week ago. It would wake me up, and then by about midday, I would just lose all motivation. Whereas I'd noticed, and like just want to, I'd almost be like the same as I was before, but this time just with a little bit of like energy here, but not energy here. I had a 3-week checkup with her recently, and I have now been put onto 70 milligrams. I have yet to start it. They just arrived in the post today, so I'm going to be trying that. But she put me on 70 because if that's too much, we can at least bring it down. Whereas if 60 was not enough, rather than have to like do a new prescription and then do it like that, like we can just work in between with that. But yeah, that's pretty much my story and where I am at now. So I'm currently medicated. It is hard to get medication and a diagnosis in the UK. If you are currently going through the process, I feel for you, because I'm in it and I've been through it, and I have friends that have gone through it too, and it sucks. It really sucks. But if you're struggling right now and you just need a bit of help, and you just think like, I just want to feel normal, if that even exists, but like I just don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to be lazy or a burden or blah blah blah, late all the time. Go and speak to your GP, and just wouldn't tell somebody who is blind like, oh no, don't wear the glasses, or like just try and see on your own. It's exactly the same thing with this. The only difference is that your eyesight is your brain, and your brain isn't working correctly. Why work on a 70% perfect brain when you could have 100% with the help of like a little bit of medication and some guidance by licensed professionals? Another disclaimer as well, just because things haven't worked for me doesn't mean they won't work for you. Just because things are working for me doesn't mean it will work for you. That's why I highly suggest going through an official GP specialist and getting met up with, you know, the person who can actually fill you in on everything and find you the right dose. Like, I'm in the process now of going through that to find the right dose. Will this 70 milligram do it? I don't know. But at least I know now that if this medication does not react in a good way to me like Zagaton did, then I can message my specialist and be like, this ain't it. Can we try another one? And then she's got like tons more we can try. So there's just so much more choice and so much more option and positivity that, hey, I'm excited for the future of ADHD. I feel like there's a lot more awareness coming about and there's a lot more understanding, especially in the UK. I feel like America's light years ahead of where we are in the UK, but we're slowly catching up. I hope this video helped in some way if you are on some kind of journey of your own, or you know somebody who's on a journey. If there are some questions I didn't answer for you, or if there's something else that you want to ask me at all and you want more specifics, like, I am an open book. Feel free to just leave a comment down here, and if there's anything in particular you want me to do a whole video on, or just genuinely comment back if it's easier, I'll just be in the comments at some point and I'll just get back to you all. But if not, and it's a big video, then I can go a lot more in depth with more things. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you like this video, please don't forget to go and check out all the rest of the other videos on my channel. You'll find new uploads on this channel every Tuesday and Friday, and you'll also find me over on my vlog channel on Sunday evenings. And if you like pugs, you can go see mine in it. So yeah, don't forget to comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.